Hey, it's Up North Guy. I've been a snowmobile owner for the past 3 seasons with this Skidoo Grand Touring. And even though it's right at the start of the season and it's snowing up here, I sold my snowmobile. So I wanted to go through in this video why I did that, what would make me do that now, and some of the pros and cons about owning a snowmobile. It's be especially good if you're thinking about buying a snowmobile and getting into the sport of snowmobiling. Let's talk first a little bit about snowmobiling. I mean, I was doing it for 3 years. I never did it before. We never owned a snowmobile. Only rented a snowmobile once about 30 years ago. We jumped into this during the pandemic, thought it was the greatest thing ever. We had time to go outside and wanted to get outside, and snowmobiling was just another way to experience the winter. The sport itself is fantastic. It gets you to places you would not otherwise go, beautiful trails. It's a social thing. You're going out, other people are on the trails, you're meeting people, having fun, and really a great way to enjoy the winter weather, especially up north here where we get quite a bit of snow and the trails are magnificent. First benefit of owning a snowmobile is you know your equipment, right? You bought it, you know how it'll perform, you know how it's maintained. You bought it for a certain reason, configuration to do a certain type of riding. So it isn't like when you're renting, you kind of get whatever you get there. So you know your equipment. That's a big advantage of owning. Second advantage of owning is, and it's pretty obvious, you go when you want to. I mean, you're renting, you got to go to where the rental place is and schedule a ride. If it's really busy, it may be tough to get a machine and for you and other people, but you got your own snowmobile. You go whenever you're ready. You just go grab it, pull it out of the trailer, get it on the trail and start riding. I think the third advantage to owning is, and it depends on how much you use it, it actually can be cheaper than renting if you're using it enough. It's one of the cons of snowmobile ownership if you don't use it enough, but if you're using it a lot versus renting every time, you're going to actually end up spending less money with the ownership of the snowmobile. So what are the cons of owning? Well, when you own it, you want to get out there and use it, but you got to have the time to do it. And this is what I was finding out. I just did not have enough time to get out there, and the conditions have got to be right. You got to have enough snow. It's got to be cold enough to hold the snow in place, because if the snow starts melting, that sled is probably going to be overheating, and that's not real fun to be out on the trails in those conditions. So you got to have the time to get out there and use it, the flexibility to get on the trail quickly and have the right conditions, the right amount of snow. I found you need about 3 inches of snow, a good base there to start, and then about 3 inches of fresh snow on there. That's usually good enough as long as the weather's cold enough. And when I say cold enough, I mean around 20 degrees or lower. Certainly below freezing, but down in the 20s or teens is probably best to keep that snow in a good cold situation to help keep your sled cool and have a good ride. So the other side of owning a snowmobile is the cost of it if you're not using it enough. So the sled itself could be anywhere from, new, could certainly be probably more than $10,000 to even over $20,000. Lots of used ones out there. Definitely get a used one. There's definitely a lot of choices there for that. I ended up buying new, so maybe not necessarily the smartest decision, but that's what we wanted to do at the time. So the cost of it is very expensive just to buy and get in on the ownership of it. And then you've got the repairs and the maintenance on it. I was spending at least $300 a season to get it serviced, which is basic oil change, checking the high facts, lubing it, that sort of thing. I don't do that myself, that part of it, so I had to pay for that. If you got to pay for any kind of extras, like a new battery, I had a battery that went out after a season or two. That's another $150, $200. There's other maintenance items like high facts on there. That could be another couple $100. So you got to expect to spend about $300 to $500 a season just to get the thing ready to get on the trails. Another con that I found with owning it is, and it's a bit of how you ride, you got to have easy access to the trails. I was using a cargo trailer, to move the snowmobile around, which is fine. But if you think about it, it'd be best to be right next to the trailer, sort of jump on right with a snowmobile there if you can. When you're driving it to where you need to go, you got to remember that why are you going then? You're going because you probably just got a lot of snow and you can get out and ride. Well, when that happens, what's also going to happen? The roads are going to be bad and treacherous to drive on. To get the snowmobile with a trailer to the spot where you're going to use it can be a treacherous drive. And then also I found too, a lot of times these parking areas, they're not plowed. So you risk kind of getting stuck just to get your snowmobile to the trail. Another thing to think about if you're going to own a snowmobile is who are you going to go riding with? And really, you should ride with somebody. I had a 2-up snowmobile, so my wife and I would go, but a lot of times it was just me by myself. And I think it's a sport where you really should be riding with somebody else. You can get to some pretty remote areas, and it's always good to have another rider with you in case something happens there. So think about that, and in addition to the time to go is who you're going to be riding with, so you should have a buddy with you on the trails. How do you get the snowmobile to the trail? And there's a lot of different trailer options. You also put it in the back of a pickup truck. I've seen that too with ramps. I thought about that, but I ended up getting a cargo trailer, which I think is the best. Some kind of enclosed trailer. That'll keep it out of the elements and the salt and the ice when you're driving. I had it on an open trailer for a little while, and I found that everything was getting frozen and deteriorating when I was moving it around that way. So get the right kind of trailer to move it to the trails. If you don't have easy access just to drive right onto the trails, you need something like an enclosed trailer. So why did I sell it now at the beginning of the season? Well, nobody wants to buy a snowmobile if it's March or April and the season's over. It's going to sit there for about 8-9 months before you can use it again. Definitely going to have to cut the price if you're going to sell it. Came to the conclusion that I wasn't going to be riding. Let's let somebody else use it. Let somebody else enjoy it. I just decided to sell it at the beginning of the season, got a lot more interested buyers. So from my experience, who should own a snowmobile versus renting it really comes down to 3 things. 1, you got to have enough time to use it. So you got to be able to have flexibility, get out there, have enough time to use it enough to make it worth your investment in owning. 2, you got to have people to go with. Don't go by yourself. It's safer always going. It's a lot more fun going with somebody else too. It's a social thing, so make sure you got other friends, buddies that also use it. And then 3, you got to have easy access to the trails. Ideally, you just drive it right out of your garage, right onto a snowmobile trail, and you're on the system. You don't need to trailer it anywhere. You don't need to worry about unplowed parking lots or bad roads or anything like that. Or you're not driving it along a highway to try to get to the nearest trail. That's not a lot of fun, in my opinion, to do something like that. So if you got those 3 things, and of course you can afford the ownership cost as well as the maintenance cost and repair cost, then probably makes sense for you to own your snowmobile. Hey, if you're thinking about this and you're not sure, let's say you're on the fence, not sure which way to go, I would say just go ahead and buy it, because don't let doubt rule the decision or make the decision for you. The last thing you want to do is look back 10, 15 years from now and say, geez, I wish I would have done that when I was younger and now it's too late. Don't go into it with any regrets. Just go ahead and do it. Take the chance. You can always sell it, get out of it if it isn't something for you, and enjoy the experience while you can. As they say in the snowmobile world, just send it. All right, that's it for my thoughts on pros and cons of owning a snowmobile from Up North Guy. Like the video, share it out, subscribe to the channel. It's Up North Guy on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.